My father says a wife who earns more than her husband eventually forgets who she belongs to, Daniel said. So you have two choices, Claire. Leave the research center and take care of him, or leave this marriage. He delivered the ultimatum over untouched lemon pasta in our apartment overlooking Portland's riverfront. Rain traced silver lines down the windows, and the candles had burned low in their own wax. Daniel sat across from me with his arms folded, wearing the expression he used at work, calm, polished, and certain the other person would surrender first. His father, Walter, had suffered a stroke 6 weeks earlier. The doctors expected a long recovery, but not permanent helplessness. He could speak, eat, and walk short distances with support. What he needed was rehabilitation, medication supervision, and someone nearby during the day. I had already found 2 home care agencies and offered to cover half the cost. Daniel rejected every option. Dad doesn't want strangers in his house, he said. He wants family. By family, he meant me. Daniel was a sales supervisor. His schedule began at 9 and ended around 5. I was the director of materials engineering at North Star Biomed, leading a team developing a flexible heart monitoring patch. My salary was nearly double his, and patent attached to our project could change my field. None of that seemed to matter. You're acting like this job is some sacred calling, Daniel continued. People get replaced every day. Walter is my father. He gave us everything. The apartment, the car, the vacations, and the rehabilitation deposit had all been paid mostly from my income, but I didn't correct him. Not yet. For 12 years, Daniel had introduced me as the brilliant one. He loved telling friends that his wife designed technology while he handled the real world. I used to think the joke was affectionate. Only recently had I understood the condition hidden inside it. I could succeed as long as my success remained useful and never challenged his authority. Walter understood that condition. Even before the stroke, he had treated my career like a hobby. At family dinners, he asked when I planned to settle down, though I was 40 and had been married for more than a decade. When North Star promoted me, he congratulated Daniel for allowing me to work so much. Now, father and son had turned resentment into duty. Daniel pushed his chair back. I need an answer tonight. I looked past him at the city lights trembling in the wet glass. He expected tears, anger, bargaining, anything that would let him feel powerful. Instead, I felt something inside me become quiet. All right, I said. His shoulders relaxed. I'll step away from North Star. I'll take care of Walter. Daniel smiled. I knew you'd understand. I do, I replied. And since we'll be living on your salary, we need to make one practical change first. The smile weakened. I placed my napkin beside the plate. We sell this apartment.
Daniel blinked as if I'd suggested burning the building. Sell it? Why would we do that? Because your salary won't cover the mortgage, fees, parking, and Walter's care. You said family requires sacrifice. This is ours. He stared at the walnut shelves, custom lighting, and the view he photographed whenever clients visited. The apartment had become part of his identity. He told people we had made it, though most of the down payment came from an inheritance my aunt left me, and every renovation had been paid from my bonuses. We could use your savings, he said. No. The word landed harder than shouting. If I leave my career, my savings become my protection. We sell, clear the mortgage, and move into Walter's house. He has 3 bedrooms, no rent, and I'll be there whenever he needs me. Daniel's face tightened. He hated his father's house, a narrow place in Beaverton with brown carpet, heavy curtains, and a garage packed with fishing gear. But rejecting my proposal would mean admitting he wanted my sacrifice without giving up anything himself. At last, he nodded. Fine, if that's what it takes. The next morning while Daniel slept, I called 3 people. The first was Maya Brooks, a property attorney I met during North Star's expansion. I told her everything. The ultimatum, apartment, inheritance, payments, and Daniel's assumption that I would leave my career with nothing secured. Do not resign, she said. Not yet. And do not move $1 until I trace it. The second call was to realtor Julian Price. By noon, he had arranged photographs and a listing for riverfront buyers. The third call was the hardest. I asked my executive director, Dr. Helen Wu, for a closed-door meeting. Helen had recruited me 9 years earlier when I was running reliability tests in a basement lab. She listened, removed her glasses, and said, Claire, I can approve medical leave. 6 months, renewable once. Your title remains yours. I may need to consult remotely. You will. This project cannot lose you. We agreed I would step away publicly, but continue reviewing designs at night. My consulting fees would go into an account Daniel could not access. I felt no guilt. He had not asked me to solve a family crisis with him. He had ordered me to erase myself. That evening, I told North Star had accepted my departure. He hugged me with such relief that for 1 second, I almost doubted my plan. Then he whispered, Dad will finally see how committed you are. Not how committed we were, how committed I was. The apartment sold 11 days later. A technology investor from Seattle offered $40,000 above asking and wanted the furniture included. Daniel complained until Julian explained the extra money was worth more than the sofa. On our final night, we ate takeout on the kitchen floor. Daniel raised a cup. To starting over. I touched mine to his. To seeing things clearly, I said. He smiled because he thought we meant the same thing.
Moving into Walter's house felt like stepping into a photograph, yellowed at the edges. The hallway smelled of cedar, coffee, and the menthol cream he rubbed into his knees.
Every room held proof that Daniel had been a boy there. School portraits, baseball trophies, a framed certificate for perfect attendance in 1996. Walter had converted Daniel's childhood bedroom into a storage room years ago, so he slept in the guest room beneath a ceiling fan that clicked every 11 seconds. Daniel complained about the mattress the first night. "I can't live like this forever," he muttered. I turned off the lamp. Neither can Walter. My days began at 5:30. I prepared his breakfast, checked his blood pressure, sorted medication, drove him to physical therapy, cleaned the bathroom, answered insurance calls, and practiced speech exercises with him. Walter improved, but gratitude did not. "You cut the toast too thick," he said one morning. "You should iron Daniel's shirts before he leaves. My late wife never needed a spreadsheet to remember pills." I kept using the spreadsheet. Daniel left each morning in the shirts I ironed and returned late. He said the office had become demanding. Most nights he kissed Walter's forehead, asked whether everything was fine, and disappeared into the den with his laptop and headphones. Everything was never fine. He preferred answers that required nothing from him. 2 weeks after we moved in, Daniel found me reviewing an insurance statement. "The transmission is slipping," he said. "Can you send me $2,000 from the apartment money?" I looked up. "Why would I do that?" He laughed, then stopped when he realized I was serious. "Because it's our money." "No, Daniel, the original down payment came from my inheritance. For 9 years, my income covered the mortgage, assessments, and renovations. Maya documented every transfer before closing." His face changed. "You planned this." I protected myself. "We're married. We were married when you told me my work was disposable." Walter entered with his cane. "What is all this noise?" Daniel pointed at me. "She's keeping the apartment money." Walter's eyes sharpened. "Claire, that is dishonest." I closed the folder. "What would be dishonest is pretending Daniel's salary can support the life he demanded. We live here without rent. Groceries, utilities, and your medical costs now come from his paycheck, exactly as he promised. The sale proceeds are my emergency fund." Daniel began pacing. "You can't just decide that." I already did. His auto repair had to wait. A week later, he sold the luxury SUV and bought a used sedan. Then he canceled his gym membership, stopped ordering lunch, and discovered that coffee made at home cost less than coffee served in a cup with his name misspelled. He blamed the house. He blamed Walter's recovery. Mostly, he blamed me. At dinner, he watched me as if waiting for guilt to soften my face. It never did at all.
I let Daniel believe the discomfort was temporary. He assumed I would unlock the account, pay his bills, and restore the life he missed. Instead, I became more efficient. Walter's appointments were scheduled in blocks. His medication was organized by color. I installed grab bars, ordered a shower chair, and taught him to use a meal delivery app. At night, after both men went to bed, I opened my laptop in the laundry room. Northstar sent encrypted files through a private server. I reviewed sensor failures, approved materials tests, and joined video calls with my camera off. Helen introduced me to investors as temporarily unavailable, but my notes still guided decisions. The prototype improved quickly. So did Walter. By the end of the 3rd month, he could walk without a cane. His speech was clear, and he made his own breakfast. His neurologist reduced the home care recommendation to 3 visits a week. Daniel ignored all of it. He began coming home after 8, smelling of restaurant food while claiming he had eaten nothing. One Friday, I found a receipt in his jacket for dinner and cocktails. "You said money was tight," I said. "It was a client meeting. The receipt says 4 margaritas." His jaw tightened. "Why are you searching my pockets?" "I was washing the jacket you left on the floor." Daniel snatched the receipt away. "I work all day. I'm allowed to have a life." "So was I." He slept in the den that night. The next morning, Helen called. Our heart monitoring patch had passed final safety review. A medical device company wanted to license it, and Northstar now planned an announcement in 6 weeks. "They want you at the press conference," she said. "I'll be there." And the board approved her promotion. Vice President of Research, effective when your leave ends. For the first time in months, I smiled without hiding it. Daniel noticed. "What happened?" Walter's doctor sent good news. It was not entirely a lie. His next appointment confirmed what I knew. He no longer needed a full-time caregiver. On the drive home, Walter sat beside me. "You're going back to work," he said. "Yes." "And Daniel doesn't know?" "Not yet. He won't take it well." "No." Walter tapped his cane against the floor. "My son has always confused being needed with being important." I glanced at him, surprised. It was the closest he had come to admitting the truth. That evening, Daniel complained the guest bed was ruining his back. Walter complained Daniel had blocked the mailbox. They argued over the television, then groceries. I listened from the kitchen. Without me absorbing their frustration, they had begun turning it on each other. I didn't need to destroy their alliance. I only needed to step out from between them. The following Monday, I met Maya at her office. She placed a blue folder on the table. "Everything is ready," she said. I signed each page slowly. My leave ended in 38 days. So did my marriage.
The moment arrived on a rainy Sunday evening. Walter sat reading the newspaper. Daniel was stretched across the sofa, flipping between channels and complaining that the internet was slow. I stood in the doorway, holding the blue folder Maya had prepared. "I have some news," I said. Daniel muted the television. "Did you finally transfer the apartment money?" "No, I'm going back to Northstar." For a second, he looked confused, as though I had spoken another language. "What do you mean, going back?" "My medical leave ends next month. Walter's neurologist confirmed that he no longer requires full-time care. A nurse will come 3 mornings a week, and therapy transport is arranged." Daniel sat upright. "You arranged this without asking me?" "I arranged appropriate care for your father." Walter folded his newspaper. Daniel turned to him. "Dad, say something." "The doctor says I'm doing well." That isn't the point. It was always the point, I said. You told me to leave my career because Walter needed constant help. He doesn't anymore. Daniel stood. You promised. I promised to care for him while he recovered. I did that. I cooked every meal, managed every prescription, attended every appointment, and rebuilt this house around his mobility. The crisis is over. His face reddened. And what about us? I looked at the folder. That's the other news. I placed it on the coffee table and opened it. Daniel read the heading twice. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The remote slipped from his hand. You're divorcing me? Yes. Walter stared at the television, frozen on a commercial. Daniel picked up the papers. This is insane. We had one argument. No, we had 12 years of imbalance and one argument honest enough to expose it. I was under pressure. You called my work replaceable. You told me to obey you. You rejected every solution that required effort or money from you. He shook his head. You set me up. The apartment, the accounts, all of it. I gave you the life you demanded. We sold the home my income supported. We moved here so I could care for your father. We lived on your salary. Nothing happened that you didn't approve. You hid your job. I protected it. His eyes moved from me to Walter, searching for an ally. Dad, Walter lowered the paper. She did take good care of me. Daniel looked betrayed. That's all you have to say? Walter's voice hardened. You wanted her here. Then you were never here yourself. Silence followed. I slid a second document toward Daniel. The finances are documented. Maya traced my inheritance, mortgage payments, and renovation costs. I'm not asking for support, and I'm not taking anything that belongs to you. What am I supposed to do? You still have your job, your car, and this house. This is Dad's house. Then I suggest you discuss rent. Walter looked at him over the newspaper. For the first time that evening, Daniel seemed truly afraid.
Daniel signed the temporary separation agreement 3 days later, though not before leaving 12 messages. I answered none. Instead, I packed 2 suitcases, my laptop, and the patent certificate hidden behind winter coats. Walter watched from the hallway while I carried everything to the car. You planned this for a long time, he said. I planned it from the moment your son gave me an ultimatum. He nodded slowly. Fair enough. I expected another criticism, but he only handed me a small box. Inside was a photograph of Daniel and me from our first Christmas together. We stood in front of a crooked tree, laughing at something outside the frame. He wasn't always like this, Walter said. No. Or maybe he was, and I kept translating it into something kinder. Walter looked toward the den, where Daniel had locked himself away. My wife did that for me, he said. For 40 years. I put the photograph back. That doesn't make it love. No, he replied. I suppose it doesn't. I rented a furnished apartment near North Star, small enough to clean in 20 minutes, and quiet enough to hear Wayne against the balcony doors. The first night, I slept 9 uninterrupted hours. When I returned to the office, Helen met me in the lobby. She hugged me once, then handed me a security badge with a new title beneath my name, Vice President, Research and Development. You earned this before you left, she said. The board finally caught up. My team had covered my absence, but they had not replaced me. My desk was exactly as I remembered it, except someone had placed a tiny plastic crown beside my keyboard. The conference happened 2 weeks later. Under bright lights, Helen introduced the flexible cardiac patch to reporters, hospital executives, and investors. Then she called me onto the stage. I explained how the material adjusted to movement without losing signal quality. I described the failures, redesigns, and 17-hour test cycles. Cameras flashed. Questions came quickly. For the first time in months, no one interrupted to ask whether dinner was ready. Afterward, my phone filled with congratulations. One message came from Daniel. I saw you on television, so you never really quit. I stared at the words, then typed, you never really asked me to. He called immediately. I declined. Maya finalized the divorce 6 weeks later. Daniel challenged the apartment proceeds at first, but his lawyer withdrew the claim after reviewing the records. There was no courtroom battle, no final speech beneath fluorescent lights, just signatures, dates, and a judge ending a marriage in under 10 minutes. Outside the courthouse, Daniel waited beside the steps. You made me look like a fool, he said. No, Daniel. I stopped helping you look like someone you weren't. His expression twisted. You think you won? I looked across the street at the North Star car waiting for me. I think I'm free. That answer hurt him more than anger ever could.
For several months, Daniel tried to rewrite the story. To mutual friends, he said I had abandoned him during a family emergency. To his coworkers, he claimed success had changed me. Once he even told Helen that North Star had encouraged me to leave my marriage. Helen forwarded the message without comment. I replied to no one. People who knew us well did not need explanations. They had watched Daniel enjoy the apartment, vacations, and reputation my work provided, while dismissing the work itself. The rest were free to believe whatever version made them comfortable. Walter called me in early autumn. His voice sounded stronger. I thought you should know. Daniel moved out. Where did he go? A studio near his office. We argued too much. I almost laughed, but Walter sounded tired. Without me between them, father and son had discovered they did not actually enjoy each other. Daniel resented the constant requests. Walter resented Daniel's impatience. The devotion they had praised in theory collapsed under ordinary daily contact. Are you managing alone? I asked. I have the nurse 3 times a week, and I can make my own toast.
That's progress. He was quiet for a moment. I owe you an apology. I waited. For the way I spoke about your career, for expecting you to do what I never would have asked of Daniel, and for teaching him that women prove love by disappearing. The apology did not repair the past, but it was honest enough that I accepted it. Thank you, Walter. Before hanging up, he said, "You were good for him." "No," I replied. "I was useful to him. There's a difference." That winter, North Star's cardiac patch entered hospital trials in 3 states. The first patient was a retired music teacher named Evelyn, who had struggled with traditional monitors. She wore our patch for 14 days without skin irritation or lost data. When Helen showed me the results, I cried at my desk. Not because the project was perfect. It wasn't. There were still revisions, regulatory meetings, and manufacturing problems ahead. I cried because I had almost allowed 2 men to convince me that this work was vanity. In January, I bought a condo on the east side of Portland. It had tall windows, pale floors, and no room that carried someone else's childhood. I chose every piece of furniture slowly. The dining table was smaller than the old one, round, not rectangular. No head of the table, no position of authority. On my first evening there, I cooked lemon pasta. Rain moved across the windows exactly as it had the night Daniel gave me his ultimatum, but this time there were no candles burning down while someone explained what my life should become. I ate by the glass and watched the city lights appear. My phone buzzed once. A message from Daniel. "Can we talk? I think I understand now." I read it twice. Then I deleted it. Understanding after losing control was not the same as respect. I had already learned that lesson for us.
6 months later, the patch received federal approval. At the celebration, Helen raised a glass and said, "To Claire, the woman who refused to disappear." Everyone applauded, but I thought about the night Daniel had ordered me to choose between my work and my marriage. He believed love meant surrender. He believed sacrifice only counted when someone else made it. Most of all, he believed my success belonged to him, until it became inconvenient. He was wrong. The life I built afterward was quieter, smaller in some ways, and entirely mine. I no longer explained my ambition, apologized for my independence, or mistook being needed for being valued. Sometimes people ask whether I regret staying long enough to carry out my plan. I don't. I regret the years I spent shrinking so Daniel could feel taller. But I will never regret the moment I stood at that dinner table and said yes. Because that yes was not obedience. It was the first word of my escape.